Thanks for joining me on episode 1158 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Branchy Soleil, and I challenge you today to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence by using your time, talent, and treasure to serve your calling. One way to do that is to listen to Scott Mader and his podcast, Inspired Stewardship.
It's not the end result. It's not the goal. Then you can begin to put into your daily time more than just money-making activities. You can begin to put in time for relationship. You can begin to put in time for rest and relaxation. And you can recognize that time is just as valuable as the time that actually earns you dollars and puts those in your bank account. Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world. In today's episode about investing in yourself by stewarding your time, I talk with you about why the common expression that time is money can lead us astray. I share some of the traps and ways that time is really not money, and I also share why understanding this can help in our growth. As we talk about stewarding your time, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without just taking too long? Turns out you can't. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show just that quick. If you enjoy the show when you are ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon. Time is money. You've probably heard that expression before. It comes, at least in part, from a quote by Benjamin Franklin from an essay entitled Advice to a Young Tradesman that starts, "Remember that time is money. He can earn 10 shillings a day by his labor and goes abroad or sits idle one half of that day. Though he spends but 6 pence during his diversion or idleness, it ought not to be reckoned the only expense. He has really spent or thrown away 5 shillings besides." In other words, the idea here is that if you took a day off or half a day off, not only did you spend money, but you also didn't earn money. This idea that time is money is something that is deeply ingrained in our culture. In fact, there's an article out there that says that time is not money because if time was money, we'd all be rich because we have 24 hours in a day. And it goes on to say that any time that you don't spend in action, creating and giving of benefit or value to another person, either through entertainment or through other ways of creating value, that doesn't create money. And therefore, time without action has no value. And in fact, there's some truth to that because, yes, if you want to create money, you need to do something and take action. You have to create value for other people or provide entertainment for other people. And that allows us to earn money, which keeps us alive and those sorts of things. There's truth to that. But the problem is there's also a lie behind that. Because when you buy into that concept completely, then any time not spent working is automatically a waste. But if you think about it, that's not completely true. Because if we live by that time is money mentality, then the goal is always make more money. Don't spend any idle time, because if you spend idle time, you're not making money. But there's more than just making money to life. It makes money the goal. It makes money the outcome. It makes money your security and your provider, because you're putting all of that emphasis on money first, when that's not really what we're built and designed by God to do. God wants us to, yes, make money, and yes, live a life and do all of those sorts of things. But the goal isn't the money. It's what we can do with the money to take stewardship of that and provide even more value for other people. It's about multiplying our impact and our reach. The second myth that kind of comes from this idea of time is money is you always have the energy to just keep going, to keep doing more. But the truth is, you will eventually burn out. So many people work and buy into this hustle culture of hustle and grind, hustle and grind. I can sleep when I'm dead. And the truth is, if you buy into that culture, you're going to be dead much sooner because you're going to burn out. You don't have infinite energy. You don't have infinite energy to keep going. And if you try to work 24/7, you're going to actually create illness and sickness. This is why we have the idea of the Sabbath, the idea of a renewal day, the idea of taking some time for rest and relax. And then the last myth is automatically any time that is not spent in productive work that creates money is automatically labeled as a waste of time. Any unproductive activity is automatically a waste. But that's not true because, again, spending time doing things sometimes not because it earns you money, but just because it's something that you love to do, or just because it's something that provides value to other people, but you're doing it for free. It's not only about the money. It's also about being productive in other ways. Spending time on your spiritual growth, spending time on prayer, spending time in relationship with others or serving others in other ways is not wasting time, despite the fact that if you buy into this pure mentality of time is money, it would be wasted time because it doesn't earn any money. When you begin to understand this concept that time is money is true, but is also false at the same time, it lets you begin to again live in that state of the both and, when you recognize that yes, money is something that is important and it's something I should pay attention to and it's something that I need to deal with, but at the same time, it's not the end result. It's not the goal. Then you can begin to put into your daily time more than just money-making activities. You can begin to put in time for relationship. You can begin to put in time for rest and relaxation. And you can recognize that time is just as valuable as the time that actually earns you dollars and puts those in your bank account. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of time, be sure to sign up for our Stewardship of Time Tips series by going to inspiredstewardship.com/time or texting 44222 time tips, and that'll get you our best tips on stewarding your time. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.